Good evening, everyone. Severe Weather T9 meteorologist Nathan John joining you for this edition of Nate at 8 on this Sunday evening, a special edition of Nate at 8 on the weekend. We're going to be tracking, well, a lot of the same that we had for this weekend going into the beginning of the week, although there is one big difference, and that is likely the rain chances. So rain chances do look to lower, not completely to zero, but it does look like most of us can stay dry over the next couple of days, but it is hot and it is humid, and that does not change here, at least into the first half of the week. But later this week, more pleasant conditions, they are in sight. Thankfully, we can go out and enjoy the outdoors without being miserable. It's pretty rough right now. It's pretty rough. It is the season, right, to be hot and humid. But yeah, it's been a bit excessive, that's for sure. It's unbearably humid this weekend, and much of the same here early into the week, but later on, much more pleasant conditions to enjoy the outdoors are certainly in sight. And I think really a absolutely gorgeous into the work week is ahead for us, and that can carry over into the weekend. So if you didn't like conditions this weekend, just wait another week, and it is looking very nice later on this week. So thanks so much for joining into this edition of Nate at 8. Let's jump into things, and we'll touch on the temperatures and humidity first. And temperatures right now into the 70s across a lot of the area. Did have some rain-cooled temperatures coming off of lows that were into the 70s themselves for this morning. It did make it in the 80s across most of the area. Again, some rain-cooled temperatures, though, in place going throughout this afternoon and evening. And we're stringing together quite a bit of days here with lows in the 70s. This marked the fourth in the row, and really it's just a continuation of what we've seen for a lot of the even past month, right? We go back towards the end of June. That's what started that warm and muggy stretch of these nights. And we've had some relief at times. And certainly one of those times was earlier this week, right? This past Monday into Wednesday, where we saw those low temperatures back 60s, 50s, and certainly some relief there. But overall, we are right back to around 70 for that low. And it's been 70 plus again 4 mornings in a row, including this morning. And I think that as we do look ahead, we'll be right in that same threshold again. So take how these mornings have felt, and I think it's very similar Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, as well as Thursday morning. 4 more. So we are halfway through our stretch here of warm and muggy nights, and if we can string together 4 more of 70 plus, because we may sneak just into the 60s, it'll be around 70. But if we do hold 70 plus at the Wheeling, Ohio County Airport for 4 more nights in a row, which certainly that potential is there, I would mark 8 mornings in a row, or 8 days in a row with a low temperature of 70 plus. That would tie the most on record for the Wheeling area. We have to go back to 2016. That was also with 8. Again, that's the record. So, and about a decade ago, if we can manage to have 8 mornings in a row with low 70 plus, that's how long we have to go back to see a stretch similar to what we're experiencing right now with these overnight lows. Again, this has been a historic, and again, the most humid stretch on record for the Wheeling area, the most humid stretch on record for Pittsburgh in over 100 years. So, it's already been historic, but just another statistic to add to the historic stretch of humid weather that's been in place that does continue through the first half of this week. And of course, we're all been looking at Friday, right? That's what we're all looking at right now. The 60, yes, that starts then that period of relief. We finally get back to a more cool, comfortable night, and that does coincide then with a drop in humidity as well. So right now, what we see with these warm and muggy nights, well, some hot and humid days. And we're dealing with dew points right now, right in that unbearably humid range. Yeah, bring out the angry faces, that's for sure. Wheeling 75 for a dew point, 72 Steubenville. It's unbearably humid. Much has been the case here as of recent. And again, as we go into the first half of this coming week, it's a lot of the same story. But as we do see those lows drop back to around 60 Friday morning, that then coincides when we finally get some relief from the unbearably humid conditions. We'll notice these dew points likely fall off even later into the day on Thursday. So even around this time on Thursday, we can start to feel a difference, and we'll certainly notice it waking up Friday morning. And then we can even get to more of a refreshing level for those dew points going into around this time on Friday. So certainly the relief is in sight to get into the end of the day Thursday, Friday, the weekend. This coming weekend, it's in sight, but we do have to get through a lot of this work week where it's still just unbearably humid. And again, a lot of what we've seen for this weekend does not change here near term. Highs still well in the 80s, even around 90 Monday and Tuesday. And of course, you factor in that humidity, it just feels well in the 90s Monday and Tuesday, still feeling like it's in the 90s Wednesday. Although we'll likely start to trend a little bit cooler Wednesday. And you may be guessing that can coincide with an increase in rain chances, and you would be correct. So the additional cloud cover and rain that we could see Wednesday can trend us a little cooler, but the next 3 days, it's still hot and it is still humid. We'll still deal with some rain chances, although rain chances with respect to this weekend here going into the beginning of this work week do look lower. And talking about rain chances right now, lowering as we speak. Yes, a lot of these showers and thunderstorms, these are tapering off for this evening. So anticipate while it's a warm, muggy evening, it will likely be a mainly dry evening as well. There's still something isolated lingering here for a shower going into the first half of tonight. But for most of us, we are drying up at this point, not anticipating any flooding, severe threat from anything that lingers here early on tonight before we'll likely dry up going into tomorrow morning. And when we do see some clearing in our skies going into the latter part of tonight, then the attention will turn not to what we'll be dealing with in terms of dealing with any precipitation tomorrow morning, but some areas of fog for tomorrow morning. We look at what radar is estimated for rainfall over the last 6 hours. You can see the scattered nature of this precipitation throughout the latter part of this afternoon and going into this evening. And of course, the areas where radar is estimated the most rainfall falling around Monroe County. That being said, well, radar estimated even upwards of about 3 inches of rain. Thankfully, we didn't have a whole lot of reports when it came to actual either storm reports or flood reports in our area. In fact, looking at those storm reports, nothing reported in terms of any wind damage, because again, that would be the primary concern with a strong to severe thunderstorm. So thankfully avoiding that for today. When it comes to flood reports, we had some close to us around Washington, PA, towards Morgantown, dealing with some pretty bad flooding into those areas. But for us here, eastern half of the northern panhandle, thankfully not get that flood report coming in. Was certainly a noticeable, though, amount of rain that fell into spots going into this afternoon. And certainly that potential was there with these torrential downpours. But again, thankfully have not had any flood reports coming into our area so far going throughout the course of today. But look at this noteworthy amount of rain. Again, this is just a testament to how torrential these downpours have been. But 1.4 inches of rain measured in 30 minutes. That is a lot of rain falling over a short period of time. We noticed this not only for today, but of course yesterday. And again, as of recent, these torrential downpours, we did have more impacts across our area for yesterday. Thankfully, not as many today. And again, the good news is now, as we do look ahead going into the early part of this week, the overall coverage of showers and thunderstorms will likely decrease. So the overall risk for any impacts will likely decrease as well. Again, the one thing to watch for now going into tomorrow morning is not so much any precipitation. It's more so some areas of fog, which can be dense, may slow you down a little bit for that morning commute in some spots with that reduction of visibility. Warm and muggy start to Monday. Then as we go throughout the day, notice a lack of precipitation going through midday. And this is when we'll watch later in the afternoon and evening for that more isolated pop-up shower and thunderstorm. And we can spot it going in the latter part of the afternoon and evening. And anything that then does develop will taper off quickly, early Monday night, and we'll dry up then with some areas of fog likely and developing into Tuesday morning. And then, yes, that more stray shower thunderstorm potential returns with that pop-up Tuesday afternoon and evening. But again, most of us likely stay dry here over the next couple of days. Then going into the middle of this week, as we do track then that drop in humidity, right? Some dry air moving in for this coming weekend. This will be with a cold front passage. And with that frontal passage, then we'll likely notice more organized showers and thunderstorms, and then a greater coverage of those showers and thunderstorms and a greater coverage of cloud cover. So that's what can start to trend as cooler Wednesday. We can have some lingering showers and thunderstorms Thursday, especially earlier on to the day. We'll likely get a drying trend later in the day as some of that drier air moves in. I'll start to cut back on the amount of showers and thunderstorms later into the day Thursday, as we'll likely see not only some cooler temperatures Thursday, but a decrease in the humidity throughout the day. And we'll start to likely dry up by the end of the day Thursday. And then from there, likely stay dry as we go through the weekend. There's that beautiful stretch of weather. Again, temperatures already cooler by Thursday, but it's still a bit muggy. By Friday, then it's pleasant. And, even Thursday night into Friday, that's when that pleasant humidity levels return. So it's a very nice, much more comfortable stretch of weather going into Friday, Saturday, as well as into Sunday. Not hot, right? Certainly not hot. It's not humid. It's going to be a great stretch of weather setting up going into this coming weekend. Now, we will be watching. Rain chances likely pick back up early into that following week, but they do look to at least hold off as we go through this coming weekend. So yes, it does look like that this coming weekend's a good time to make some plans, even into that Friday evening. If you happen to have Friday off later this week, going into this weekend, should present a great period of time to make some outdoor plans. Less of maybe a poolside weather, but anything else, right? And much more just a pleasant weather to be outside in. That's for sure, coming up later on into this week. So let's catch up on comments. Again, thank you so much for everyone tuning in to this edition of Nate at 8. Blue Gill saying hello there. Hi there, Renee. Great seeing you on a Sunday. Thanks so much there, Renee. Thanks for tuning in on this Sunday evening. Suzanne, hello. Kind of strange seeing you on a Sunday. Yep. So not too often, but spot me here on Sundays coming up some. Helping fill in with Jeff. If you haven't heard, Jeff Exline is off this coming week on vacation. So he'll be enjoying a nice vacation. So helping fill in when needed for Jeff to be on vacation. So if you don't spot Jeff this week, don't freak out, right? He's on vacation, enjoying a great time. He'll be back for that following week. But yes, helping while Jeff is away. Hello there, Debbie. Thanks for tuning into this edition of Nate at 8. We need relief. Oh, that is so true, Renee. We've seen too much of this humid weather as of recent. And again, thankfully, there's some in sight, but we still got to get through a few more days of the hot and humid conditions. Ian, good evening. Saying 76 degrees there in Maynard, Ohio. Got a half inch of rain early this morning in about 30 minutes. Quite a bit of rain there falling in 30 minutes. And again, some heavy downpours at times, that's for sure. Really looking forward to Friday with the refreshing dew points. Couldn't agree more, Ian. It's going to be really nice to spot some more cool and pleasant weather returning as we get into the weekend. Suzanne asking, why are some places getting rain but other places not? That's a pretty typical pattern here into our summer months. We don't have these large-scale weather systems providing the widespread rain, right? We get more organized activity when we do deal with the frontal passages. Low pressure systems can at times deliver a little more widespread precipitation. This time of the year, we typically get more of that scattered variety or hit or miss variety is our typical pattern into our summertime months. And then, we get those larger scale systems in once we do get into, once we start to get into the fall and of course our winter months, right? And even into spring, you get more of that widespread precipitation with those larger scale systems. And this time of the year, we typically deal with more of a scattered variety with those showers and thunderstorms, driven a lot by, of course, our heat and humidity that we have into those afternoon hours, which is why you can oftentimes see then a lot of the activity that develops, right, tapers off when we start to cool down in the evening and we start to lose that daytime heating and a lot of the fuel for those showers and thunderstorms and a lot of activity, a lot of it does taper off then overnight. And that's what's going to drive a lot of what we're going to see Monday into Tuesday is that pop-up variety, which again is likely more isolated into Monday afternoon to evening, Tuesday afternoon to evening. But with that frontal passage, yes, we can see a little more widespread coverage of showers and thunderstorms. With the frontal passage itself, more of a scattered variety out ahead of it developing Wednesday. And then we'll see we see that coverage increase as we narrow down the window of time of that frontal passage going into Wednesday night, and some showers and thunderstorms then lingering possibly as that front makes its way through the area into Thursday. And then behind that, again, we'll likely see the humidity fall off throughout the day Thursday. So a pretty muggy start to the day, but by the end of the day Thursday, I think we'll start to notice a difference. And then certainly from Friday morning on, then into the weekend, we'll certainly likely notice a difference as well. In terms of impacts here near term, anything that does develop, it still has to be monitored, right? The potential for impacts are still there early on this week. Localized flooding, a strong to severe thunderstorm, they're both possible. It's just that, the overall coverage is more isolated, and that just naturally then lessens the potential overall for impacts Monday to Tuesday. But it is a scenario where anything that develops just has to be monitored. That's just the nature of this pattern that we're in. So we still just have to monitor anything that develops. But again, certainly not a big risk for impacts or a big risk for rain here over the next couple of days before we see that further increase in coverage going into Wednesday. Debbie says morning fog means lots of sunshine. We'll have a pretty good amount of sunshine here over the next couple of days. I do think so. I think we still have some clouds in the mix, but overall, I think it's a decent amount of sunshine Monday as well as for Tuesday. And yes, some fog then into those morning hours as well. And the correlation there with the morning fog and sunshine, well, a lot of times we do deal with more fog with some more clearing in our skies. As we get more clearing overnight, that yields then oftentimes more fog going into the morning. We will likely still maintain those some cloud cover overnight as well as tomorrow night, but I think we get just enough clearing to start to spot some areas of fog going into the next couple of mornings. Come on Friday, Suzanne says. Yeah, come on, let's go Friday, right? I agree. It's going to be beautiful weather coming up. That's certainly looking forward to it. Kathy says, thank God. Good evening. Nate, thanks for sharing. You're welcome, Kathy. Thanks for tuning in. And yes, I think we're all just really looking forward to what's coming here in about a week, right? A little less than that. I should say a little less, right? We don't have to wait till next Sunday. A little less than that later on this coming week is a good way to put it. Debbie says Tuesday is rain day in Waynesburg, PA, every July 29th. Debbie says, well, thanks for sharing that. It's pretty cool. Thanks for sharing that, Debbie. Coming up on July 29th, Tuesday is rain day in Waynesburg, PA. I guess that means it's got to rain Waynesburg, right? On the 29th. And it's possible. Yeah, it's certainly possible. It's much more hit or miss, but it's certainly possible to still spot that shower and thunderstorm here over the next 3 and likely even 4 days. I do think that Thursday precipitation can be more in line earlier into the day. We'll see how long it sticks around into the afternoon and evening hours, especially around this time Thursday. I don't think there's much left at all. I do think we're really drying up by the end of the day on Thursday. And that then again coincides with that. Likely at that point on Thursday, we're starting to feel that drop in humidity. So I think Thursday can end quite nice across the area. And then that starts our stretch of nice, much more comfortable weather going through this coming weekend. So we're counting down the days, getting through. So a few more of these unbearably humid and hot days before we start to notice the relief arrive throughout the day Thursday, and it stays with us then for the weekend. Certainly looking forward to that. Does look like, again, coverage of showers and thunderstorms will pick back up. We could see temperatures start to pick back up as well into that following week, especially later into that following week. We could start to see temperatures pick back up, but at least into the near term here, it's in that Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and even earlier into that following week, we can string together a handful of days there where highs are cooler and the humidity is lower. So certainly going to be nice to see that. And again, coincides very closely with the start of our new month coming up this week as well. So don't forget about that coming up here later on to the week. On Friday is when the beautiful stretch of weather starts and the new month as well. I mean, it's kind of ironic how that happens sometimes, but how the weather seems to change with the calendar. We'll see. While it's certainly a cooler start to August, I'm sure those temperatures are going to ramp up, and unfortunately, probably the humidity as well. It's going to pick back up going into that second week of August, taking us towards the middle of the month. So at least starting it, though, on a much more pleasant note for the start of August. Hopefully a war of August can pan out that way, even though temperatures and humidity probably does pick back up a bit more that second week. But hopefully overall, it won't be as terrible if the humidity levels as what we've seen going through July and much of the vast majority of July and the latter part of June as well. It's still hard to believe. Think back to what we had at the beginning of June, and the dew points were into the 40s and even 30s, I believe. I mean, such a difference. Those dew points, I mean, really just almost cut in half from what we've been dealing with as of recent. What a sharp difference from the beginning of June to what we've been dealing with here as of recent. That's for sure. Even had some chilly mornings there at the beginning of June, and now Well, it's just been warm and muggy for a lot of the stretch. But as we turn to August, we get to give more of a sigh of relief from that heat and humidity. So certainly will be nice for that. Thanks so much for tuning in this edition of Nate at 8. If you're just now tuning in, again, the showers and thunderstorms that we've had in place today, they're coming to an end now. So, something more stray can linger here early on, but the activity's tapering off at this point. Watch for some areas of fog into tomorrow morning. More of that pop-up isolated variety is possible the next couple of days. Further increase then in the scattered showers and thunderstorms around Wednesday into Thursday with a cold front passage that then ushers in a cool down, less humid air right as we begin August there. But technically, I think that we'll notice that drop in humidity even by the end of the day on Thursday. And that's reflected then with those lows by Friday morning, dropping back to around 60, right? So we'll notice the drop in humidity likely even a little bit before the first there into Thursday evening. But pretty close to the first, that's for sure. So we'll definitely be looking forward to that coming up later this week. Until then, of course, you can catch me coming up even this evening, News 9 at 10 on Fox 9, News 9 tonight at 11 for the latest. And for that next edition of Nate at 8, I'll be right back here tomorrow evening for that Monday edition of Nate at 8. So make sure to stay tuned. But we're going to be tracking anything that does happen to develop here over the next few days and give you the latest on where we stand with everything, right? With any of the showers and thunderstorms, any areas to watch for potential impacts, any storm reports, flood reports to pass along. Of course, we'll break it all down here over the next few days as we still see some of these showers and thunderstorms in place with the following editions of Nate at 8. Thanks so much for joining me on the Sunday evening. I hope you had a wonderful weekend, and now the work week is upon us, but just think we get to look forward to next weekend. We get to look forward to the absolutely gorgeous weather that's going to be greeting us by the time we get into Friday. That sticks around into this coming weekend. So I think we'll all be excited, looking forward to that. That's for sure. Thanks again so much for tuning in. I hope you have a wonderful night, and I'll see all of you on the next edition of Nate at 8.